Hey guys, RedWhiteandBluestreak here. Just before this video starts, I just want to say sorry for the hiatus. I got sick, got really sick, and my voice is finally coming back to me, so I'm finally able to record this. So, hopefully no more really long hiatuses after this. Also, if you didn't catch my community post, keep your eyes on the channel on Halloween. I plan to be doing a special little kind of gag review that day, so, stay tuned. Open. Come on! Open! Baweeb Grana Weeb Ninibang YouTube, RedWhiteandBluestreak here, and today we're taking a dive into Commander class with Studio Series 86 Ultra Magnus. So before I get into this figure, I've mentioned on this channel what Studio Series as a whole is, but never what Studio Series 86 is. Well, for starters, 86 isn't the figure number, like how Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime is Studio Series 102. We're way past 86 by now. No, instead, 86 refers to the year in which the Transformers the movie came out. No, not that one. The good one. The other good one. No, the other good one. No. The oldest one. There you go. Studio Series 86, like the Studio Series Gamer Edition sub-series, is a subline of figures from a very specific category and another way for G1 to slither their way into a figure line. Was Generations not enough for you? The figure's actual number within this sub-series is 21, as shown on the box. See? Now, starting with the packaging while we're here, which we haven't done in a while, jeez. This figure makes Studio Series history as the first Commander class Studio Series figure, and as such has the second, or I guess rather the third biggest box in my collection. It's equal to another Commander class of mine, and second only to the Magic Square Masterpiece figure boxes. The artwork on this box is very nice, as usual, but not as entertaining as... The art shows Magnus as he leads the Autobots on a full retreat from Autobot City following his promotion to leader preceding the deaths of the leaders of both factions. Personally, I'm a big fan of the closed box design that they used here as opposed to the open box design that they use on anything smaller than leader class. And even more so, I prefer a box with a flap in the front with a plastic window to see the figure, kind of like how they did... With the closed box, the most risk you have is the figure inside being swapped for something else, which, while tragic, isn't as disappointing as finding a part of the figure missing in my opinion. But, should everything be inside the box as it should be, the figure that we do get is clearly using some sort of performance-enhancing drugs. Remember kids, drugs are for quitters. Unless you're an Autobot, in which case it's not only allowed but greatly encouraged apparently. When this figure was first revealed, outside of the praise for Hasbro not using the same mold they used in Siege and Kingdom, there was a fair amount of controversy with regards to the proportions of the robot mode. And while, yes, the proportions are a little wonky to say the least, it's not too bad in hand. Unless you look at it lower than eye level or pay any mind to the trapezius area. Then it's really noticeable. Despite that, everything is very nicely sculpted. From the nice stern facial expression with light piping, to the cartoon accurate arm details, to even getting the weird panel thing on his back and, actually those proportion issues completely disappear when looking at him from the back. Neat. Magnus is also painted really well too. Like any of the other Studio Series 86 figures, there seems to be a great priority placed on making sure the colors are absolutely screen accurate, which for me is greatly appreciated. Cup, Magnus, and Hot Rod always had the most satisfying color schemes for me in the movies. Even New Age didn't manage to nail that as much as this figure has. Speaking of nailing things, Hasbro has also gone absolutely above and beyond in the accessory department, at least as far as mainline Hasbro figures go. Of course, you get Magnus's shoulder missiles, which, unlike a good amount of other Magni that I've owned, actually has detachable missiles. And for good reason too, which we'll get into in a moment. We also get two different guns, which is something a lot of G1 Magnus toys tend to do for some reason. Not sure why he has a sizable rifle accompanied by Boomstick McGee here, but the more the merrier with these weapons because Magnus has an absolute surplus of blast effects for his arsenal. Yeah, I'ma say it. These are the main things that sold me on this figure. Don't get me wrong, the figure's amazing for reasons that we're getting into and that we will continue to get into, but these blast effects hit all the right notes here for something you'd see in G1. Something about the softer molded details in the plastic, methinks. They're also compatible with any other mainline weapons and figures from Siege onward, meaning that I can finally spruce up my War for Cybertron collection even more. Long story short, blast effects are awesome, Hasbro. Please do them more. Now back to Magnus. One other accessory I forgot to mention is the Matrix of Leadership, with an actual, mostly, movie-accurate Matrix chamber, spring-loaded as well. Yeah, I've had way too much fun with this feature. You can also use the blast effects to make it look like the Matrix is launching from his chest, which is hilarious to me considering another feature that they have with this figure. If you go for the proper joints, you can go ahead and detach this figure like he's a Lego character that just lost all of his hearts. A nice but morbid homage to the '86 movie. Now, there are a few of you that are watching this review that have watched a good amount of my other reviews, so you probably know what segment's coming next. But I should warn you, it's going to be a little louder than it usually is. For some reason, the Commander classes lately have loved to use ratchet joints. Not complaining, but just so you know. There's a ball joint at the head allowing you to get the full range of motion. You can look up really far, jeez. And down quite a bit. His whole face disappears when you do it though. His arms can move out all the way thanks to a neat looking joint at the armpit there. Ratcheted rotation at the arm. A really tight swivel at the bicep. If you untab this section, you actually get a butterfly joint. It's pretty neat. Soft ratchet at the elbow. The fingers are actually articulated, with the first finger being on 2 pins and the rest of the fingers being grouped together on 2 pins. It's a very tight swivel at the wrist. Another tight swivel at the waist. The front skirt moves up so you can ratchet the leg up that far. Side skirts move out of the way to do the splits that far. And the back skirt moves out of the way to ratchet the leg back that far. Ratcheted knee bend, getting you a little over 90 degrees. A slight rotation at the thigh. And a tilt at the ankle. Man, that felt good. Each joint feels nice and solid, especially those loud and proud ratchet joints, meaning I probably won't have to worry about droopy limb syndrome anytime soon. And those bonus butterfly joints go a long way for my enjoyment of posing this guy. Though, maybe I'm spoiled by the rare instances we've seen in mainline as well as third-party legends, but I would have loved to see an ab crunch here. It'd just be nice, to be honest. Ah well, the next Commander class that we're looking at can definitely satisfy that need. Oh yeah, there's an alt mode, isn't there? So that's why he's got muscle-bound hunk proportions. Seeing the result of this transformation, one begins to wonder, how on earth does a primarily red and blue giant city commander of a roided robot end up as a white flat-nosed semi? Well, more often than not, you just take a smaller, scrawnier white robot out of him and transform him separate and reassemble the other parts into the trailer, which is good enough, if not a bit tiresome due to how often we see it happen. But in rare cases like these, we're treated to a clever, relatively screen-accurate transformation that allows the truck to be gracefully barfed out of that hulking form with no disassembly or reassembly, aka parts forming, for the trailer required whatsoever, outside of the shoulder missiles.
Mission failed. We'll get them next.
But we can overlook that. Where the robot mode seems to have a bit of a substance abuse problem, the truck mode is just your average Joe making his way in the world. Perfectly proportioned and completely movie accurate. I would say something about how the transformation hides away everything perfectly to where you can hardly tell this is a robot, but come on. Even if that was completely true, this ain't fooling anyone. And in this case, that's perfect. Even in the movie, you could hardly call this a robot in disguise. Regardless, this vehicle mode is perfectly detailed and molded, and rolls very well on its plastic wheels. At least from what I can tell with the limited room on my dresser. It can even hold a couple corpses of your favorite characters. Functional and fashionable. Plus, as you'd expect, the blast effects are still compatible here. Literally, the only problem I have with this alt mode is that the cab detaches a little too easily. Yes, you can get the cab on its own, and it looks weird. I mean, all those red bits for the back and the entire head have got to go somewhere, right? Let's get this back on the main truck before I think about it too much. Overall, I love this figure. Yeah, the robot mode is perhaps a bit too bulky, but he certainly looks the part, in some cases more than other Magnus toys. On top of that, he isn't a reuse of the Kingdom mold like some people suspected he was gonna be before we got a formal reveal. He can hold poses really well thanks to the solid combination of friction and ratchet joints. He has a fantastic alt mode, and he's jam-packed with all kinds of little details that only the hardcore fan would care about. What's not to love? 4.9 out of 5 is going to be my final rating for this guy. And as you can guess, it's mainly because of the robot mode proportions. I understand that these roided out proportions make things like the death scene recreation and the fantastic alt mode possible, but I wouldn't have minded a slimmer robot mode at the cost of a slightly inaccurately scaled vehicle mode. You guys already know my stance in terms of which mode I prefer to prioritize. It's the robot mode if you couldn't tell. But as I said at the start of this review, the proportions really aren't that bad once you get the figure in hand. If you're a Magnus or a G1/G1 movie fan, I definitely recommend you get this figure over any of the other mainline offerings. This is easily the best mainline scale Magnus on the market, and you for sure don't want to wait until you have to pay aftermarket prices for this guy. Based on how other Studio Series figures are, I can't imagine how the first Studio Series Commander class figure is going to look on the aftermarket. Believe me, I don't want to find out.